session together with my colleague Pratibha Jayaram. We also have in the audience Ruchika and Lionel. They'll be helping us, allowing people into the lobby and monitoring the questions. So we rely on you two for the questions, and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. And let's jump into the agenda. For today in the agenda, we have the highlights of of our latest release, that it was available at the end of June. And we wanted to present you the new features, the enhancement that this version has brought. And of course, if they're of meaning and value to you, we encourage you to reach out to your accounts manager to make the upgrade. Amongst the features, we have I get some weird message. I hope everything is okay. Amongst the features, we have some changes and enhancement that we brought to the batch management, and we are very excited to present them to you. We have enhancement to report, additional filters into the mass import-export, and we are ending with new switching settings and what they can do. If time permits, we are going to talk about report scheduling. This is a feature that is already existent in the version that you have, but it's something that we thought is not so well known, so maybe it's worth reviewing it. Of course, if we won't have time today, then we'll have this report scheduling, including into the September session. So with that, let's walk through the highlights of the latest release. As I was saying, is the release that was made available at the end of June, and there is a number of new features. We're going to go through the most exciting ones. Of course, if you want to have the full details of the additional features and enhancement, please refer to the release notes. We are going to present to you today and also do some small demos related to the new features in the batch management, then improvement to reports, the additional filters for mass import export, and some switches that were created, made available in the backend, and how they relate to the user interface. And with that, I'm passing the mics to my colleague Pratibha. So here's to you.
Thank you, Catalina. Good morning, everyone. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see that?
I can see it.
Okay,
Go
great.
ahead.
So first, let's start with what's new in the batch manage, new features available for batch management. So we have a new checkbox, use schedule posting dates, and then we have a new stop button, and then we have made the post to and reverse to the date field mandatory now. And then we have a new batch action for contract change. So let's look at them in detail now. So first we have um, a glance at schedule posting job, and we have a new checkbox available for scheduling job, that is until end of schedule run month. If it is selected, the scheduled job picks up all the postings from the post from date until the end of the scheduled run month. So if you go to the application, the back end, and select schedule posting job, and I'm creating a new posting schedule. And posting type, I want post payment, post accruals, and post depreciation. And we have to select a batch I have a list of all the contracts here, and I'm selecting that over here and select. And in the posting parameters, we have use schedule period dates and then until end of schedule run month. So if the job is scheduled to run on the 25th of the month, then the application picks up posting up to the end of the month to post on the 25th. So if it is not selected, then the job picks up all the posting until the day of the scheduled run, plus or minus the specified number of days. And now let's move on to the next one. We have a stop button. So this button will allow us to stop the batch from processing the remaining batch items. So both scheduled and non-scheduled batches can be stopped. So let's go to the application and let's go start a batch, create a batch. And I'm selecting batch posting, submit. And I'm creating a batch name. And actions, I want to post all postings. And in the filters, again, I'm selecting the contact.
Pratibha, I'm going to interrupt
Pratibha,
you a bit.
yes.
Yeah.
We had a question from Andrea. Andrea, she's from BP, and she's asking a question about a possibility to exclude drafts in the scheduled jobs. And Andrea, you might remember we talked about this, and this is a version that we made available at the end of June. So right now, that possibility doesn't exist for the schedule in the manager page. This is where Pratibha is showcasing right now. However, the ability exists in the front end, and we took note of the request, and we made it with our product team to have the same in the manager page.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Now I have selected the contacts that I want to start posting and I'm saving them. And in input, I'm using the schedule period date and I want to post from April to June. And I'm saving it. And I'm running the batch, generating the items now. And I'm running the batch. So here we can see all the batches and I'm stopping it. So all those items that are still running is the one that they started posting. And here we can see the items where the jobs have been stopped. And now let's move on to the next one. So yes, we have the post to and reverse to date. It is now mandatory to input the date range that you want to post. So if you go back to the batches, in the in the input, we can see the post to date is mandatory. We also have a today checkbox. We can check that box and select the number of days from today that that you would like to post. And in this case, we do not have to specify the date here. So if you have any existing batches, we have to go and modify them. That is, add the to date, or else it will fail to process. And the next one is a new feature that we have in batch action, contract change. So in contract change, we used to have only CPI changes, but now we have the option to delete any open draft that are in the selected contract list. So we don't have to go to each contract and delete the open draft.
Boa. Eu tentei fazer um omelete, mas esses ovos estão meio podres.
I'm sorry, is that a question?
No, if I would like to ask you to please put yourself on mute. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Pratibha. There was some noise from the background.
Okay. So we don't have to go to each contract and delete the open draft. Instead, we can collectively use this function. So let's go to the application and the batch. We can create a new batch. And here we can see ask contract change, submit. So add a name and save them. And in action, we can see delete open draft. We can select that, save, and you can use the contracts where we have the open draft that you want to delete. We can select the company, system, confirm them, and company, confirm them, and then we can select all the contracts and we can save it and run them. Yes, we have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Agnes.
Hello. I just got a question about mass contract change. Is it also possible to change the cost center with a mass upload file?
So the cost center change is available at unit level. So this is a different batch. What we were showing right now is the ability to delete drafts, open drafts for those units, either if you have reassessment or lease modification.
Yeah.
If you know in previous version that option of deleting a draft was only available at the individual level, so we introduce this mass function. For the cost center change, the ability to make the change remains at unit level, because as you know, in our structure, we have one contract that can have multiple lease component. One lease component can have multiple AGs, and one AGs can have multiple units, and those units, they can have the specific cost center. So the change is targeted at the unit level, not at the contract level.
But for lease component level, it's also not possible because the change is only reflected on the unit level, but the user gets confused if it sees on lease component level or contract level and on unit level different cost center IDs.
Yeah, so that's what I was explaining, because the way our structure is made, you can have each unit can have a cost center, a different cost center, but the lease component will remain with the initial one.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And I think there is another question from Tiesa.
Yes, very quickly. I was trying to do the same way that you were doing now to delete the contracts that we did the reassessment. And I don't see the same option that you're seeing right now. And I have the same version that you are using. Did you go to the filter, right? And then you select the option to delete the contract, right? The draft.
Did you change it from filters to bulk contracts?
Yes, I don't have the option, but I just wanted to see. I don't know why I don't have the option.
Pratibha, I think Tiesa is referring to the action. In the action, she doesn't see. So just maybe if you can explain, because it's a specific type of batch, the one that you choose. So maybe retrace a little bit.
Yeah, I'll just start from the beginning.
Thank
So
you.
I'm creating a batch. I'm selecting mass contract change
Okay.
and submit.
Okay.
And I'm giving it a name. And I'm saving them. And in action, I'm selecting delete open draft.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Were you able to find it, Yasa?
I will check it out.
Okay.
But thank you.
But so if you still have issues, we can take this offline. You can reach out to us after the session. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Perfect. Now we'll move on to the next one. We have there are a few improvements that are made in the reports. So let's look into that. We have a consolidated transaction report. We have added few filters and few columns. We have added few columns for activity analysis report, data quality integrity report, and asset roll forward report. Now let's look into that look in detail. So in consolidated transaction report, we have a new filter for depreciation area. These are mostly relevant for those who are connected to SAP. And we have new columns for contract ID, contract name, contract description, and reversal posting date, which were not available previously. So let's go to the application. And for consolidated transaction report.
Fariba,
So
sorry
yeah.
to interrupt. There's a question
Yeah.
from Adam Laura. Please go ahead.
Hi, the question was relating to filtering on document date on the transaction report. The feature isn't available just now. I wondered if that was part of the upgrade. So just now we can only select by posting date or by entry date. We would like to filter by document date. Is that possible?
So it should be possible. So in the data range, you normally have fiscal period, transaction date, and posting date. So the transaction entry date is the one that you're looking for.
No, the document date.
That will be your document date.
No, it's not the same thing. It's okay if it looks like on your screen that feature hasn't changed, so that's okay.
But maybe because when you post a transaction, these are the 3 dates that you introduce. You introduce the posting date, you introduce document date, which is your transaction date. What else do you introduce?
Well, the transaction entry date is the date you post it. So if I posted something today, transaction entry would be the 28th of August. That's not the document date.
Will you be able to follow
Yeah,
with
sure.
us and tell us what it is, and maybe we can take this offline.
Yeah, sure, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, for consolidated transaction report, we have a new depreciation area filter. And if you go to the report, I've pre-generated them. We can see the contract name and contract description. And also we can see the reversal posting dates. And now to the next one, we have activity analysis report.
Sorry, Pratibha, because I understand better now the question from Laura. Can you go back to the interface and show into the additional data range? You have the document date in there, Laura?
Okay, so it's under a new heading, yeah, additional date range. Great.
Yeah,
okay, that's
so
helpful. Yeah.
you have a setting in the backend that will allow you to have the additional data range type, so then you can also choose the document date.
Yes, because I can't see that in QA just now, but if I put the trigger on, I should be able to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to turn on the switch to have the additional data range enabled, and then you'll be able to select by document date.
Great. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sorry, Pratibha, back to you.
problem. Yes. So for activity analysis report, we have additional columns named lease payment, showing how much lease was paid during that selected period. So for example, if you go to the report,
We have another
Yeah.
question, Pratibha, so we'll go ahead, Martha, while Pratibha is showing the activity analysis report.
Hello, I would like to ask about this lease payment, new column in activity analysis report. Is this cumulative amount for choosing periods, or is this monthly or amount which each contract have?
Yeah, it's the sum of the lease payment we have for the period that we selected.
Okay, so if I will choose, for example, 1 year, it will be sum or only monthly amount for period?
It's the sum.
Okay.
So for
okay,
example, if you're choosing
So if
this
I
one-
want to see 1 month payment, it should be choose month here. 1 month, for example. If I
Yes.
want to see monthly payment. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So for example, if you go to this contract, and we go to the schedule, we can see the payments were 2000 into 4. And if you go to the activity analysis report, you can see the lease payment as 8,000. And we also have additional columns where we can see the current and non-current liability, as well as the reclassification of the current principal liability. And now moving on to the data quality integrity report. So in data quality integrated report, we have added new sections like contract database information for contract and AG database information for AG level. So here we can see the object, the created date, who created it, and when was it modified, and modified by whom. These are really useful for during audit to see who created the contract, who modified it, etc. So if you go to the report by contract, we can see the object created at date, created by whom, and modified at date, and modified by whom. And now moving on to the asset roll forward.
Pratibha, so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make another note here that the changes are available in the both version for the data quality integrity report. So for the contract and for the one at AG level.
Yes.
So you can have that information in both versions that we have available.
So even in AG group, we have all these details. And now moving on to the asset roll forward report. We have a new column that shows the accumulated depreciation change separately from the accumulated depreciation expense movement. For example, if there is a casualty or asset retirement, the reversal in the accumulated depreciation will be shown separately. For example, I'm taking the report, asset roll forward, and here we have a accumulated depreciation change, selecting that contract. And I'm going to the schedule, all column, and all year. And if you go to the asset part, we can see accumulated depreciation change for this much amount, and it will be shown over here. This is for one unit and we have multiple units. That's why we have a difference over here. Do we have any question?
I wanted to add a little bit here for the asset roll forward report. This was, if you remember, and in your current version, the depreciation was all accumulated in one bucket, so to say. So in case of asset retirement, either by natural end or casualty termination, whatever it was hard to see what was the actual depreciation expense and what was the reversal due to the termination. And we had a lot of great feedbacks. We listened to it, and now we have that extra additional information. And I know for Lionel, for example, remembers we had a lot of requests for this, and we're really happy that we have this type of enhancement. And the other type of enhancement from reports are all of them based on feedbacks, on great feedback that we get from our users, from you. So as you can see, we are delivering. So keep them coming. We are here to get better with your feedback.
Thank you so much, Katalina.
That's it from me. Now I'm passing it to Catalina.
Right, so let me get back to our presentation, and let me know when you can see my screen again.
We can see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So some other improvements, some other additional features that we added. One of them is related to the mass import export, and in the filtering capabilities for mass import export, if you remember, or if you're looking at the version that you are right now, you remember that what we could select was the system and then the company, and we added a lot of other options in order to make the export more pinpoint. And you can see that we have the list area, business unit, company code, contract ID, where you can actually insert the specific contract. So as you are working with the export, and then if you want to make use of this for any purpose, you can have a more focused type of extraction. So let me just get back to our application so I can show you this live. So as you know, the import export is available from the main menu. And as we go to the export of the contracts, you can already see the additional fields that are available. Of course, we need to start with the system, but then we can choose among the list areas, and it really depends on how your structure, your hierarchy goes, and you might have only one in some situation or multiples. Then you can choose from the business unit, from the company code, and you can even pinpoint to the specific cost center. But what's even more about these additional filters, you can select the specific ID. So if you want to export 30 contracts, for example, you have this way of doing it right away, right of their finger. So as the database grows bigger, and for all of you, you have already years of using our application, so you have more and more objects added to the database. Having this ability to extract specific information is more important. So now you have this ability to select specific objects, specific contracts in this way. Of course, to the export information. So depending on your needs, you know that an alternative to export is the data quality integrity report. And we were talking earlier about new information. So it really depends on the object of your need, but you can use alternatively the data quality integrity report, which already has this kind of setup as a report. You have all the filterings available, and you can make a more pointed selection already. But in the export now you have this additional information. So now let's go back to the presentation, and we're gonna get into additional switches that we added in the backend, and I'm gonna walk you through them. The first one that we want to specifically talk about is the disable this end date validation. It's a switch that allows you to for example, as you are ending certain contracts and you are ending them during the month, as we are right now on the 28th, and if the contract is supposed to end at the end of the month, I'm using ending a lot, but this is what it's all about. Then, as you know, our system was blocking you from choosing the end date further today's current date. So we introduced this to allow you to end those contracts for the current month with the actual month and date. And as a demo is worth more than words, and let's go to the application and look into this. So first of all, in the manager page, I want to show you where this disable list and validation is, and I am going to set it first to listen and save it. Of course, for the administrators that we have online, as you remember, as you are making changes, it's very important that you save. And I'm gonna go back into my user interface, and I have here prepared some contracts with a natural end for August 31st. I'm having trouble finding my contract. It will be a minute. Sorry about that. It in my license. All right. So this is a contract that has a natural ending for August 31st. So I'm on the 28th. I just wanna get it out of the way and kind of make it easier for me for the month end. It's already in list end. In the list end is available, but what I need to do is set the end date. And if I go on to the set of end date, you can see that the only available date right now is the 28th. I cannot choose 29, 30, or 31st because the 28th is the current date. So now if I switch on this in the back end, and once again, I'm saving it, you will see what the user has the option to do. So from the set end date, I can now select the days of August in the future. Of course, I'm not going into September. This is also based into onto the fact that what we were aiming to do here is to allow to close the contract in the current month. We don't want to close it in the future, but we understand the practicality of actually ending the contract during the months using the month end date. So that's the purpose of this switch. It will allow the users to perform their administrative task related to the ending of the contract during the month, and will ease up the month end load. They will have one less action to do for the month end. So with that, I can set up the end date for the 31st. So this is what this switch is doing. So let's go back here to talk about other switches. I'll go back into the presentation mode, and I'm
Sorry,
showing.
Katarina. There's a
Yes.
question from Alabdeli Salig. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we just wanted to check, like, is there any way to do a mass lease int for multiple AG at the same time?
For the mass lease end, yes, we have this option in the batch management.
Okay, thanks.
You're very welcome. All right, I was showing here the same thing that I showed you in the interface, and that's now talk about new default switches that we added in the backend, and I'll walk you through what they can do. The first one is set the modify contract rate by default. So let's go back to the application again, and the switches, all of them, you can find them into the accounting settings. For the administrators that we have online, you already know this is the most important setting page. You have all the ingredients for the accounting type of choices that the users have in the front end. And the first default switch that we introduce is modify contract rate by default. So if you enable the switch, the modify contract rate checkbox will be by default selected. So if we leave it unselected, let's pick a contract here, and I need to pick another contract, one that is active, not in lease end. So I'm gonna take out my filter. I'm going to a contract, and from the contract level, I am going to mimic a lease modification. I'm not at the contract level, I'm sorry. Moving back to the contract level, and if I click on a lease modification, you can see that the modify contract rate is not selected. My switch is off. So let's turn on the switch. And I'm clicking saving. As with every change that I'm doing into the manager page, this is a very important step. And for the list modification, if I'm selecting the list modification now, yeah, you can see the modify contract rate is on. So this is something towards the optimize of the user journey and what we think will save time depending on whether you want to have the changes of the contract rate with every event or not, depending on your own internal policy. So this is something that can be discussed, and based on the internal decision, the administrator can set the switch on or off depending on what you need to do. And coming back to the presentation, the other two switches are related to option within the batch management. Is the set user terms and condition by default and apply earlier indexation by default. And as we are going to the batches, I'm gonna show you, Sally, where you have the lease and in mass option. So let's go back to the application. And we need to access the batch management. We are going into the batches and we create new batches. So first I'm going to show you where the mass listen is, and it's part of the workflow mass transition. Is one of the actions that are available. I'm just going to put a name here so I can move on to the action. And within the action, you can see here the listen is available. So you can perform the listen for all the contracts that are valid, for example. And you might remember in previous sessions where we talked about different types of ending a contract. For all the contracts where the operational transactions have been posted, you can simply run the listen to see how many contracts in listen or where the listen can be done. So this is a great way to check. So you can maybe check back to our March or April sessions. We talked a lot about this, and we talked about the listen option as well. So I hope this is answering your question, Sally. And I would like to talk about the new switches that we introduced. And the first one, it is in the workflow mass transition, but it's part of the activation group. We are talking about the approval, and as you know, as we are going through the actions for the activation group, we have the send to assessment, the first one, and we will need to select something here, or maybe I can go by default with something because I want to show you the inputs. And I can go as large as I need or as concentrated as I need, but what I wanted to show you is the user terms and condition and the significance of this information. So if you hover with your mouse over it, you will have additional information, and it says by checking this checkbox, the batch manager will not exercise all the available terms and conditions automatically. So what does it mean? As you know, in the terms and condition of a contract, you can have certain terms that are likely to exercise and other that are not likely to exercise. So you can have a base rent and multiple extension that you don't know for sure if you are going to exercise them or not. So at inception, you can leave them as unexercised. So if you want to go through the workflow process where pretty much do the approval steps in batch, but you want to keep the choice that the user made. So it was base rent, likely to exercise, extension, unlikely to exercise. You need to click this on. If you do not, then the system is going to set every terms and condition likely to exercise. And for those of you that lately have been through some processes where you've done things in mass, this is something that we discussed about it. But we realize once again, for the easiness, for the users who are doing this, especially for a lot of contracts, it will be best to set a switch to allow this input to be made by a default position. So if you want this to always be on, all you need to do is set the user terms and condition on. So you will need to, as you saw earlier, when I was going through the inputs, the input was not checked, was left blank. That's because my switch here is also off. So let me show you. If I'm coming back here and let's turn on the switch. Okay. And I'm not sure if I think I need to create a new batch in order to take into consideration the changes that I made. Once again, I'm in the workflow mass transition. Let me see if I can go directly to the inputs. You cannot go directly to my inputs. Okay, send to assessment. And let me select very largely here. Okay, so now as I walked again through all the steps, you can see the input has been selected by default because that's the position of my switch. So now let's talk about the third one, this apply earlier indexation by default. As you know, for extensions and in contracts where you have indexation, you have that little checkbox that is available when you are performing extensions. So now if you want your users to always take into consideration the previous indexation, you have that option. Also because it was easily overlooked. So we had situation where the users were creating an extension, but they forgot to apply earlier indexation. So then the extension wouldn't have the indexation as well. So once again, this switch is enabling a smoother user experience for that. Let me go back to a contract where we have an indexation. So this is a contract that has an indexation. So let's apply list modification. I'm going to set the amendment date for today. As you know, this is not a date with implication in the calculation. I'm setting new terms and condition. I don't want to modify the rate, and I'm clicking submit. And once the system is creating my draft, I'm going to show you in adding an extension what that little switch can do. So we have here a contract with base rent, and there were 2 indexation events that happened. So let me add an extension here. I'm adding an extension. As you can see, I have the apply earlier indexation on here on. I mean, like it is available, so I can put it on and off as I need to. In a lot of circumstances, you will need to apply the earlier indexation. You want to move along with the indexation that was applied before. So this is something that the user will have to do. So it's an extra step. But as you can see, this is a user's choice right now, so they will need to remember doing that, of course, as always. And some of the things that I repeat a lot is that once you enter the terms, once you apply the modification, it's very important that you perform the modification. So it can be argued that this is something that can be caught during the validation of the draft. But once again, as I was mentioning, we thought about the user experience and how this will be a smoother type of action, having that apply earlier indexation, having to do the judgment only if they don't want to have that. So let's turn on the switch in the backend. Once again, I need to save in the manager page. I'm here and I'm in the draft. I might need to maybe start over with the draft, but let's give it a try. So I'm adding an extension. All right, I did not have to, so you can see the apply earlier indexation is already on. So this will help and avoid some of the situation where the users forgot to add the indexation for the extension. So I think we've done the tour of the new features and especially the ones that we consider they're the most exciting, and you have a lot of new in our view important changes, especially for the reports. For the switches is something that you might need to discuss to see internally with your team. And we went through all the new features and enhancements, the biggest ones in our view. We are at the scheduling of the report, another topic, but I think we're better to leave it for another time. And I want to take your time to make an announcement. It's a sad announcement, and one of the reason for us here, it's a very emotional session. Maybe some of you are aware, but our friend and lovely colleague Mario Dominguez Ugalde passed away last month, and the July office hour was his last one, and the August one is the first one without him. And that's the reason, among others, that we are cracking up here, and it's hard, but we are moving on. And we continue in the spirit that he brought to this session. He had a passion for sharing information, for teaching others, and we're striving to do the same. He was such a kind soul and somebody we always look up to. And I used to joke that he's somebody that I would like to be when I eventually grow up. So we'll have to grow up without him now. And we dedicate this session to him, and I hope we made him proud. And we're ending the session here. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thank you for being with us, and we hope to see you next time. Hi, Olaf. Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone.
Olaf, you wanted to say something?
No, I just pressed the wrong button.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll be stopping the recording and see you next time.